God morgen mijn vinger, and happy Freyja's Day to you. Today we celebrate the goddess Freyja and all of her ability to understand the energy of the universe. So hopefully today will give you some insight as to how to help you yourself and to grow yourself. Because this is why we're here, to grow and learn and love, continue our evolution. Before I get started today, as always, I want to call out New Reality TV and newrealitytv.com. A wonderful collection of many different perspectives that can help you with your mental space. Pieces of intellect that you can plug in where you need, what you need to know, and certainly many different perspectives that can offer, hopefully, something that resonates with you. If you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to like, follow, subscribe us on either New Reality and or YouTube, Facebook, and of course TikTok, any of those, where we come to you live every weekday morning. For those of you who might have a few extra coins jingling around your pocket, would like to put them to good use, I ask that you stop by our tip jar, drop those in there, and we will use those to benefit everyone, whether it be online or in person. For those of you who need to hear this recording each and every morning, they're available on all these audio channels. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can download For Felliness Belly Snake, and you can see there. For those of you who need to start a conversation, check out my website, norsewhispers.com. There you can find out all the information about me, my message, my teachings, and certainly methods of getting a hold of me and beginning a dialogue that can maybe help you to either obtain or maintain a better mental space. And finally, this morning, for those of you who'd like to put in and voice something, by all means, we are live on Facebook chat. You're welcome to drop your message in there, and we can work together to form a better mental space for all of those who are within the sounds of our voices. Today we're talking about Freyja. Now Freyja, for those of you who are not familiar with Freyja, she is a wonderful goddess. Freyja is probably one of the older of the recognized goddesses of the Norse legend and lore. And there's obviously, depending on which saga you read, and certainly which historian um, or archaeologist type that you kind of look to, is to Freyja and Frigg kind of being a multiple personality, maybe potentially being the same person. My ancestors have explained that when the Celts moved north, east, from the Iberian Peninsula up into Germania and became some of the tribes there, um, some of the original Celtic beliefs and understandings began to kind of evolve to a degree. And by the time we see the Celts forming new tribes there in, particularly in northeastern, what is today Germany, we find Freyja being mentioned in lieu of Danu. Danu, of course, being uh, one of the supreme recognized goddess of the Celtic understandings. We see that kind of contort into Freyja. Now, um, there'll be two lines of kind of migration with the Celtic understandings. And as the Celts that moved north, almost due north, there from the Iberian Peninsula up along what is today France, to ultimately arrive in the UK, primarily in Ireland, we see this Danu recognized very in a very pronounced way as the Celts moved northeast into what is today Germany. We see kind of a morphing of Danu to ultimately to Freyja. Now, Freyja, of course, being the sister of Freyr, she was the daughter of Njord, the sea god, and she, her and her brother were of the and her father were all part of the Vanir tribe of the Norse gods and goddesses. The Vanir are more based on agriculture and living and that form of just being being real down to earth, kind of, right? And so the other tribe, of course, the Asir gods, being very much warlike, very, you hear a lot more stories through the sagas of them conquering the giants and many other forces of the realms, very much warlike. And for many, many eons, the Vanir and the Asir tribe were at war with one another until ultimately they reached a compromise. They reached a treaty where some of the Vanir gods and goddesses would go stay in Asgard, and some of the Asgardian gods and goddesses would go and stay with the Vanir. And this exchange led to a peace between the two tribes. Well, Freyja was one of the gods and goddesses, who would be transported into Asgard and would reside in Asgard. Now, wonderful things happened when Freyja, of course, went to Asgard. Primarily what we see is an instruction of Odin in the art of magic, right? So Freyja would teach Odin the magic of the realms. And of course, primarily that magic was the Seether magic that then called upon the spirits of the realm to help kind of bring things to fruition. Now, Odin, of course, would go on to discover the energy and power of the runes. Another story. But Freyja, many refer to her as the goddess of love and the goddess of war. And many people have come to me and they say, well, how do you reconcile this? Well, you don't have to reconcile it. It's emotion. It's emotional energy, right? It's just the two extremes of the spectrum, if you will, where you have an emotional energy that's focused enough to manifest whatever it was. So in this case, it would have been love and passion. Freyja was a very passionate woman who loved, well, another god. But we see quite frequently with Freyja, we find her really experiencing the motion and the movement of energy within the cosmos. Now, this brings us to one of our primary teachings. One of our primary teachings says that when we focus our mind on a particular thing, anything, but we draw focus to it, we pass our energy to it, right? So if I think of the horses in the fields of Arizona, and I say, oh, I can see those horses from my childhood, and so I can see those horses. And so when I focus on that, remember, we all have the energy within inside of us, right? So we're generating the energy of hope and many different energies. We're also emitting some of what we're receiving, right? So, but we're going to focus it all down, and we're going to think about those wild horses in Arizona. And sure enough, this is where my energy now is kind of focused on, right? Now, you know, many of us say, well, I'm moving through, I'm thinking of 60 million things at the same time. True. And we're sending energy to those 60 million things. The amount of energy we send and the concentration of energy we send, different. But nonetheless, as we scan through these multiple things, we are sending them a matter of some level of energy. Now, the more we focus on something, the more we concentrate on something, the more we send it energy, right? So this is going back to our ancestors. And when we think about our ancestors and we kind of focus and we put them in our third eye here, and we're focusing on our ancestors, sending them energy, what of course are they going to do? Like any good grandparent, they're going to send energy in return. So we're getting, so, you know, as we kind of wake them up, if you will, with our energy stream to them, they now are going to express love and appreciation back to us. Now, energy is coming back to us. Because even as a spiritual entity, when we're able to focus our energy, we can still send energy. We can't send a new emotion, because obviously spiritual forms are incapable of creating new emotion. They don't have the chemistry of a physical form. But nonetheless, they do have memories of what they felt and how they felt and what this feels like. So they can express an emotional state from memory forward. They're not creating a new one. They're not interpreting energy. They're simply sending it in return, right? So this is the idea of focusing our energy. And this is kind of why meditation and focusing in meditation, bringing our whole thought process down to a finite point, is how we're sending energy to us. You know, this is the process of healing. Many times we spend all week, kind of just scattered, as we mentioned, where we're sending energy to all these different places. We think about the bills, we think about, the food and the costs, and maybe we think about our car because it's being kind of sketchy, all right? And so we're focusing energy on all these different places, we're generating that energy and we're sending that energy. We have a tendency to get lost in the shuffle, and that we forget to think about ourselves. And this is really where it comes to healing ourselves. We're always kind of looking to someone else to do the healing, when in fact, when we concentrate, focus back on us, this is where we can begin a healing process of the self. Okay? And we need to do this. I'm always reminded, my great grandfather used to say, the horse with no gas is useless. It has no value to us as a transport system, right? So when we are all spent, when we have sent out all of our energy and we're just constantly thinking of everybody else, we have a tendency to let our physical form slide into decay because we're not sending any energy back. We're sending energy out to everyone else, and we forget about us. Now, the good news is it's recoverable, right? So we just sit down, a little bit of meditation, and instead of putting everyone else in the mind's eye, we're going to put an image of ourselves. We're going to think of what we look like. Now, many times people are always taking selfies of themselves, so it shouldn't be too hard to find a picture of ourselves if we struggle with remembering what we look like. So some people don't like looking at themselves. They think, oh, I don't like it because I pick out all the flaws. Well, okay. But for us to heal ourselves, we have to know what we look like. So maybe we dress ourselves up a little bit, right? Instead of looking like we do, we put our face, like a Photoshop thing, right? We put our face on, the body of a Greek god or goddess. And, we got that beautiful form and that handsome, beautiful face. That's okay. That's okay. You are you, and that's fine, right? We're thinking more about ourselves. I always like visualizing things, and visualizing, of course, myself, to help focus my energy on me. Maybe it's your name. Maybe you have a beautiful name, and you can just say that over in your mind, kind of bringing that energy to you, right? So you're bringing all this energy. You're focusing your energy on you. This allows the body, we've spoken on many occasions about being connected to yourself through the center column of energy that is broken into the chakras, right? And the chakras, of course, are simply diversion points along this mainstream that kind of shuffle off some of the energy, allow us to, bring it outside the center piece, right? So instead of all the energy being right here, the energy can come out and heal the tissues and the cells of the body out here. Now, many say, oh, that's just woo-woo BS. Think about it. You've worked a very hard day, we'll say. You're in physical labor. Your body is just a train wreck, right? You're very tired. Your muscles ache. Your joints hurt. What's the best medicine for this? Many will say alcohol. I disagree. Many might say illegal drugs. Nope, not there either. The best medicine for you is time, right? Is just relaxing, maybe taking a long nap, just allowing time. Well, what's time? Time doesn't exist. Time is simply a construct of the modern industrial age. And it has really no bearing on anything, right? Time is irrelevant. What's happening here is when you will say, go take your nap. And your brain, your consciousness, slips back from your physical sensory input, kind of slips back, and now it's making contact with our spiritual self, right? So it's connected to the spiritual realm around us. Now, this is now bringing in energy of the cosmos. And one of the processes that occurs when our consciousness slides back into our spiritual brain is it focuses on us. It's now going to bring our whole focus down to us. Now, what does this mean? This means that all that energy that's occurring overnight, that we're generating, that we're receiving, that's coming to us, is all being used to now open these chakras and heal the body. Right? So we call that time. But time, again, is simply the construct of the industrial age of man. In the 1500s, or even before that, if we go all the way back to, say, the age of the Vikings, of that activity, we see there were a couple of delineating factors, but they were minimized, right? So we had day and night, and we had the seasons. We knew that when the winds turned cold, we were getting ready for winter. When the sun started emitting some of that warmth and that light for longer days, we knew we were headed for summer. So in that way, what you see here is not as much a reflection of time as it is where I'm being illuminated by the day, by the light of soul, and I'm creating questions by the light of Mani, the moon. Right? So these two cycles, right? So you got kind of this nice even cycle of receiving intellect versus forming questions, right? That was really more of the cycle than per se time as we know it. Whipping out the old watch and saying, oh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time it is, right? All of those things came along much later, but everything had a season. And when you are practicing, when one is practicing and understanding the runes, one understands the rune Yira. Yira, of course, kind of looking like that, if you will. And Yira represents the balance of the seasons. It represents the inhale and exhale. It represents the forward and stall, or forward and reverse, up, down, light, dark. It represents the flow of things. Okay? And this is the energy that we're going to use now to heal our own mind and our own body. Now, many say, oh, but trust me, do yourself and me a favor. And I want you to just close our eyes here this morning. It shouldn't take very long. We're just going to close our eyes. And what I want you to do is, there's going to be all kinds of images and shapes and things kind of floating into behind our eyelids, right? And so what I want you to do is just kind of push that away and see the darkness. Nothing out there but just darkness. All right? And now I want us to think about ourselves, what we do. Maybe we're sitting in our chair. Maybe we're sitting down and having dinner. Maybe we're sitting with a friend on a log in a park. But I want you to look at yourself from a third party, from a different perspective. I want you to see you. Okay? Do you see yourself? Can you see yourself behind your eyelids? Now, here's what I want you to do. with the vision of yourself in your mind, I want you to think about what a wonderful person that person is. We may get to a place, you may have this moment where you go, well, I know that person and they're not very good. I don't want you to think about that. All I want you to do is think what a wonderful person that person is. Force yourself, if you will, to think that about this person. I want you to think now, you're going to do this for several times. And you don't have to do it all in one day. You spread it out over the day. But I want you to think about that person, you, and that person being wonderful. And again, in the very beginning, you may have some negative energies kind of pinging around in the brain, and they may try to convince you that no, that person's not. They're not wonderful, right? But I want you to look past that. I want you to push that away, deny that energy, focus on that person, and think what a wonderful person that person is. And you can even make up your own backstory. You can say, oh, I've seen them do wonderful things with children, with animals, with whatever, right? Whatever it takes. I want you to think only about that person and that person being wonderful. There's a bunch of things that are going to happen now. Firstly, if you do it over a schedule of time, say over several days, you're going to find that it becomes easier for you to think about that person being wonderful. It becomes easier. Why? Because you're starting to feel that energy. You're beginning to process the energy of generosity. You're being generous to that person in your image, right? We're gifting them with honor, with love, right? And so that's going to foster this energy. Now, the other thing is you're also healing yourself. You're healing the cells and the actual parts of your body that are creating or maybe storing negative energy. Okay, so we're going to start turning the ship. And some of us may struggle for a little bit with this, but it will become easier. I promise. Takes time. This is the gift of Freyja. This is what Freyja understood. More so than anything else, she understood how to move energy back and forth between the cosmos and the self. She was able to manipulate that energy then to then decide how she was going to use it. Okay? So, a super important factor in our spiritual growth and certainly our independence of others necessary. We don't need to climb to find the guru. We are the guru. We are the healer. We can heal ourselves. All right? So today, and certainly this weekend, I want you to kind of think about healing the self, healing your mind, healing your body. And remember, we're going to do that by sending love energy to that person. We're going to just spend time doing that. All right? So I want you to think about that. And we will see you again on Mani's Day when we embrace just the power of the question. So I look forward to seeing you there. And I am so excited about the upcoming events. Please check our website, norsewhispers.com, for upcoming events. There are many coming out. So be sure to tune into that. And we will see you all on Mani's Day, healed and ready for a new week. Love and light, my friends.